Hi guys, I had some audio issues for this video, which made me a little bit upset because it's the longest video I've ever made. But in this video, we're going to be going over some holiday ideas. You don't want to practice cooking the day of your holiday, so you want to practice before. And these are some 3 easy recipes for you to practice on. The first one's a dinner roll, the second one's a cheese ball, and the third one's a chocolate chip cookie. They're all super easy. So let's get started. All right, guys, we're starting with the dinner rolls. This is a cup of warm milk. It's about 105. You don't want it to be too hot because it will kill your yeast. Into that, we're going to add half a stick of melted butter. That's 4 tablespoons of the melted butter right into the milk. We're using this new butter. We've never used it before, but we're going to give it a go. If you've used it, let us know how you like it. And then we're going to add in 1/4 cup of regular sugar right into that cup. We're going to mix that up till the sugar dissolves. And then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of yeast, or you can use 1 package, the little packages, the single serve packages of the active dry yeast. I only have a small one, so I'm going to use 3 of these. All right, guys, so we're going to mix that together to make sure the yeast gets incorporated into our mix. What we're trying to do is we're trying to activate that yeast. So we're looking for a foamy top in about 5 minutes in our measuring cup. So if you don't get that foamy top, that means your yeast is no longer active and you'll have to start over from the beginning. So in the meantime, we've got 4 cups of flour in a separate bowl with a teaspoon of salt. So we're going to want to mix that together. The reason we're mixing the salt in with the flour before we put the wet in is because we want to make sure that that salt is well incorporated and we don't bite down onto a salty spot in our rolls. So we're going to let that set. I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, guys, it's been 5 minutes and we're back with our yeast. See, it has this nice foamy top on the top layer, so we know our yeast has risen and it's good to go. So we're going to add in 1 beaten egg right into the mixture. And we're just going to mix it around a little bit to get incorporated with the milk. And we're going to put that wet ingredients into the dry. So I'm just going to mix it a little bit until it gets well incorporated enough that we can dump it out on the countertop and use our hands to continue working it into a bread dough. It takes just a little bit, but it'll get there. All right, moving angles for you because I'm going to show you how to knead your dough. Make sure your hands are clean at this point. I mean, they should be clean at the beginning, but you're fixing to be using your hands for this, so make sure they're nice and clean. All right, so I'm going to put some flour on the counter. I always make a gigantic mess when I'm working with any flour for any recipe. So we're fixing to dump this dough ball out, and we're going to be kneading it for about 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not going to show you all 5 to 10 minutes, but I will show you a good portion to see what you are looking for. So what you're doing when you're kneading is you're just pulling the top and just tucking it under and just rotating. Pulling, tucking, and rotating. And you're going to continue doing this until you get a ball, and then you'll get into, I just wanted to get all the dough off my fingers, or try to. If the dough starts to stick to your countertop, or if it starts to stick to your hands, you can just get more flour on the countertop or on your hands and continue kneading, tucking and pushing and rolling, rotating. And you're going to do this, like I said, for 5 to 10 minutes. You're kind of looking for a Play-Doh consistency. See, right there, I was just telling you to put a little bit more flour on your hands if it starts to stick. All right, guys, this is what my bread dough looks like after about 8 minutes. So it kind of has that Play-Doh filling. So your hands are clean again. We wash the bowl, we put some oil in it, and we just coated all the sides of the bowl because we're going to put that dough ball in there, and it is going to rise quite a bit. So we want to make sure that it's not going to stick to the bowl when we take it out. So just kind of rotate it around in that bowl. Make sure that the oil gets all over the dough ball. And I just used olive oil because that's the only oil that I had at the time. So now that we got it, we're going to put a dish towel over the top of it. And we're going to let it set for an hour. This is why I started with the dinner rolls. They are fairly simple. They just require a lot of time. All right, this guy's going to set for an hour, and you want to kind of keep it in a warm place so that it can rise. So now we're going to start on our second recipe, which is the cheese ball recipe. All right, guys, this is recipe number 2. It is a cheese ball recipe. I'm actually going to be making 2 of them. The filling is exactly the same. It's just what I'm going to be putting on the outside that's a little bit different. Make sure your hands are clean again. Sorry, I'm trying to fix the angle so it's not so bad. All right, so in this bowl, you've got 2 blocks of the cream cheese softened at room temperature. That's going to be about 16 ounces of cream cheese in here. And then we're going to add 1 cup of cheddar cheese. We just bought the store-bought one that's already shredded for us. So I'm going to put that in there. Now, the seasoning is all up to your taste and flavoring, but these are the ones that I'm going to do, okay? So I have 3 scallions that I chopped up. I'm just going to dump those in. My scallions are very big, so I only used 3 of them. And then we've got a tablespoon of oregano, dried oregano going in. Sometime. Come on, Christy, put that oregano in. There it goes. And I just eyeball these measurements. Like I said, it's up to your taste. Oregano. Then we had some dried chives. I had about a teaspoon of the dried chives. And then we're going to put some pepper in. I started to do this in my hand and think I gave up, and it was like, we do so much pepper on our stuff, so we just shaked it out until I thought it looked pretty good. Then we're going to add some Worcestershire sauce. Oh, wait, just kidding. Garlic powder. Forgot about the garlic powder. And now Worcestershire sauce. I think I put about a tablespoon of this in, but again, it's just up to how you like your flavorings. All right, and now we're just gonna whisk. We're gonna mix all of the ingredients together. And this is why you want your cheese at room temperature, to make it easier to mix everything together. All right, guys, we finally got all that cheese mixed together with all of our seasonings. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to separate it the best I can evenly into 2 sections, because remember, I'm going to be making 2 separate cheese balls. I did grab some plates and I just stuck the mixtures on the plates. All right. So this is the first cheese ball, and then I noticed that there was some seasoning right at the end that just wasn't mixed in very well, so I'm just going to mix that a little bit right here. And I had washed my hands before more cream cheese got on my hands right before this. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put a little bit of oil on the palm of your hands, because we're going to roll this cheese ball up into its ball shape. You don't have to use very much, just a little to keep the cream cheese from sticking to your hands. There we go. We got 1 cheese ball, and now we're going to roll the second one. All right, I'm gonna try to get some of that cream cheese off my hands real quick. And then we're gonna start putting the toppings on. Sorry, I was just cleaning up the spices a little bit. So the first one, we're gonna do bacon bits. I did cheat and I just bought the pre-packaged of the real bacon bits. And you can cook your own bacon if you want, if you have time. During the holidays, I do like to take a couple of little helpers from the grocery store. So you're just gonna grab it, pick your cheese ball up, and you're just going to press that bacon into the cheese. You can always roll your cheese ball in the bacon bits if you would like. I just never have any luck with the bacon when I do that, so I just prefer to use my hand to give it a good press into the cheese to make sure that it stays there. And then with the fallen bacon bits, I'm just going to put those on the bottom of the cheese ball to the best that you can. No one sees the bottom of your cheese ball. They only see the top. All right. Bacon one is almost done. So the reason I'm making 2 is because my oldest son is not eating meat at the moment, so he doesn't want any of the bacon bits. So I'm going to make him a separate cheese ball, and it's going to have pecans and cranberries on the outside. There we go. So these came a little bit bigger in the bag, so I did have to chop them up a little bit to make them a little bit smaller pieces. But we're going to do the exact same thing with the pecans and the cranberries. We're just going to get them and we're just going to tap them onto that cheese. All right, guys, we've got both of our cheese balls with their toppings, and now I'm going to fight with the saran wrap and try to get these guys in some plastic wrap because we're going to want to put them in the refrigerator for about 20 to 30 minutes, which is good. I was waiting on my oldest son so he could help me taste test these guys to let you guys know how they turned out. So it took me a couple minutes to get this saran wrap going, but I finally got it. I don't use saran wrap very often. I just don't like it. It always clings to itself and it turns out to be a big mess for me. I should not have put my cheese ball so close to the edge of the counter, but I was working with limited space because I had my dinner rolls mess still on the island because I'm still not finished with those guys yet. So I put the rest of the, this one is the pecan and cranberries. I put the rest of the pecan and cranberries underneath the cheese ball, and that will just stick to the bottom of the ball. So I'm going to wrap it up pretty tight so that it keeps that ball shape while it's in the refrigerator. And then I got smart and decided to clean up the cutting board and everything, and I did wipe the counter down so that I could do the bacon one a little bit easier.
My son does not eat. My oldest son does
See,
not
the cling wrap just doesn't work for me very well.
I still want him to
And I'm gonna put the little bit of bacon on the bottom.
some nice food too. So we're gonna make this for him. So we're gonna do the same thing.
And we're gonna wrap that
and some
ball up in just a second. This is probably why I didn't have any audio, because I was messing with my camera the whole time. All right, there we go. We're gonna wrap this cheese ball up finally, just like this guy here. But then I realized I did not cut enough of the saran wrap, or I didn't put the ball in the right way. So just wrap it up the best that you can. Just want to make sure that the whole thing is covered. All right, that guy is good to go. And that guy's good to go. So we're going to put these guys in the refrigerator, like I said, for 20 to 30 minutes until they're nice and chilled. All right, guys, now we're on the third and final recipe. This is my absolute favorite one. It's just drop chocolate chip cookies. They are super simple to make. I had to squeeze over into the other side, so I don't have very much room, so I do apologize for the weird angle. So we have 3/4 cups of regular sugar, 3/4 cups brown sugar, and half a stick of butter at room temperature. And then we're just going to mix these items together. My whisk was dirty, but then I remembered I had a little bitty colorful whisk, so I went and grabbed that guy. And now we're just going to mix the sugars and the butter together to the best that you can. You can use a stand mixer if you have one, or a little hand mixer. I just prefer to do it by hand. It takes a little bit of extra time, but that's the way I've always done it. And then I'm going to stop in a moment because all my butter is getting stuck in my whisk. And I'm going to use my best kitchen tools, which is my fingers, to get it out. Just make sure your hands are clean. As long as your hands are clean, you're totally fine. So we're going to mix this together to try to get all that butter incorporated into the sugar, and the sugar's mixed together. And then we're going to start adding our eggs. We're going to add our eggs one at a time. And I'm just using 2 large eggs. And I did not have my garbage bowl next to me, so I just set it on the counter. We'll clean it up as soon as we're done with these cookies. So there's 1 egg incorporated. And the second egg. And this is where your mixture starts turning into the wet parts. So we got the egg mixed in, and now we're going to add a capful of just regular vanilla. You can use the fancy kind if you would like. I just have the imitation vanilla from Walmart. So we're going to mix that in. Once we get that mixed in, we're going to set this aside for just a moment, and we're going to work on the dry ingredients. In my dry ingredients, I have 2 cups of regular all-purpose flour and a teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add in a teaspoon of baking soda. All right, so we're going to give these guys a mix. It's the same thing, the reason we mixed with the rolls. You do not want to have a pocket of salt or a pocket of baking soda in your cookies. It's not going to taste very well. All right, so we got all of our dry ingredients mixed together. Now what we're going to want to do is we're going to bring our wet back over, and we're going to mix them in. I think I did it in 2 batches. Again, working with flour, I get flour everywhere, so I'm trying to minimize that. All right, I decided to switch over to a spoon because these are going to be drop cookies, so I'm going to be using the spoon to get my cookies out anyways. So I just tried to get the dough out from the whisk, and then we're just going to continue incorporating the flour into the wet ingredients. It does take a minute or 2, and you get a good arm workout. I guess that's another reason why I like to use my hands. Okay, at this point, when the flour is almost incorporated in, is when I like to add my chocolate chips. It's about a cup of chocolate chips. If you're wanting to add any other items, you can put some pecans in with your chocolate chips at this point. Or if you want to use the mini M&Ms, you could put those in and just use the cookie recipe as the base. You could use any flavor of chips that you want, like the peanut butter ones or the butterscotch ones. I've tried all of them. They all taste really good with the main base as the cookie. So we're just going to want to mix in those chocolate chips the best that you can. And then I have my oven preheated to 375. I went to go get a whisk to get the flour off the very bottom. Because, you know, when you're baking and cooking, you have to dirty all the dishes in your house. We're just going to fold over that last little bit of flour into the dough. That looks pretty good. So now these are drop cookies, so I'm just going to scoop them out and drop them onto the parchment paper. I'm just telling you that you could use a little measuring spoon if you want round ones. You could use an ice cream scoop. You could pinch them off with your hands. I'm just using a spoon. And then we're just going to want to try and to make sure that we get relatively the same size cookies. The parchment paper was giving me issues, so I just used the vanilla to hold it down until we get our cookies on there. All right, so we're gonna continue putting the cookies on the cookie sheet, and you're gonna wanna space them about an inch apart because they do grow, and you'll see at the end that my cookies did touch a little bit, but it's totally fine to you. These are homemade cookies and you want them to look a little rustic. All right, now that we've got all of our cookies, and it took me forever to get these cookies on this cookie sheet, it felt like, we're gonna put them in the oven at 375 for about 9 minutes. Switching back over to our dinner rolls. All right, you can see that it has risen about double its size. Make sure you washed your hands again and punch that sucker down. You just gonna wanna get the air out of there. We floured our tabletop again. So we're gonna pull this guy out. I'm gonna grab my pastry cutter and we're gonna kind of put him back into the original ball shape that he was in. All right, that's close enough. And then we're gonna just try and get him into equal pieces, which never happens for me, but give it your best try. So split it in half, cut it in half again, and then one more time. So I made mine a little bit bigger because this is just a practice one, and I actually use these for chicken sandwich buns. But for dinner rolls, you want to half them one more time to make them a little bit smaller. All right, guys, now I'm going to show you how to roll these. All right, so you're going to want to grab them and you're going to tuck the corners in. You're going to try and make a ball shape. Now, as I'm doing this, my bottom hand is tucking the underneath kind of like into a little package, and then the top hand is going to be like a claw, and it's going to be pushing under, and then eventually it'll turn into this ball shape. Once you get it like that, you just kind of roll it on the bottom because you're flattening out the bottom of the roll where you were pinching. I'm going to move angles to show you guys a little bit better. I'll show you a couple of them. All right, so you got your weird shape. You're going to tuck it under, pinch, tuck it under, pinch, tuck it under, pinch, and you're just going to do it slowly, and then you're going to work up speed, and you're going to go a little faster. And then when you have your somewhat ball shape, you're going to take your claw hand and just smooth out the bottom, and then it smooths out the top as well. There you go. Dinner roll. I'm going to show you a couple more. It takes a little bit of practice, but you will get it down. But again, that's why you're practicing before your holiday dinner or your big dinner, to make sure that you have these techniques down. There we go. So you want to get them, they don't have to be identical in size, but you want to get them close so that they have a same cooking time, so that your rolls bake at the same time and you don't have any that are undercooked or any ones that are overcooked. I thought I only showed you a few, but I guess I'm going to show you quite a bit more. So you're just tucking and then pinching. I use my thumb and my pinky to pinch the bottom of them closed. And then your claw hand again to smooth it out. Ta-da! Dinner roll. All right, guys, we're going to put all of these dinner rolls on a cookie sheet, and you're going to want to put them close together because they're going to rise for 20 more minutes and they'll be touching. All right, cookies are done. So my oven is still at 375. So I'm going to take these cookies. I don't have a cooling rack. You can always put them on a cooling rack, but I'm going to take my cookies off of the cookie sheet and I'm going to put them on this cute little pumpkin that I got from the Dollar Tree. And we're going to put our dinner rolls into the oven. I did do a quick egg wash on top of these dinner rolls, which is just a beaten egg. And then you get your pastry brush and you cover the top of the dinner rolls just with that egg wash. And they are going to go into the oven for about 18 minutes. And my oven is dirty because I do use it all the time. So please ignore that. All right. 18 minutes going in. All right, so Trent came home and he's gonna help me do some taste tests. I really wish the audio was here because he was being hilarious. All right, before Trent starts the taste test, I was just showing the cookies, the cheese balls, and the dinner rolls. This is why you stick them close together because they will eventually touch when they bake and they rise for the second time, and then you get those awesome edges. So if you were using the dinner rolls, you would cut them in half and they would be a little bit smaller. All right, guys, here goes in for the taste test. Again, I really wish I would have had the audio. He was so funny. All right, this is the cranberry and pecan one. He took a bite and he said, "Oh, yummy, it tastes like Thanksgiving," which was very nice of him. And then I just tried the bacon one on the outside. I didn't use a cracker, but it tasted very well too. Later I did eat some of that pecan and cranberry one. They are very tasty if you have time. It's super easy to make, super cheap to make, and it's a great appetizer. It looks pretty. Everybody will enjoy it. All right, Trent's going in for the chocolate chip cookie. Look at that ooey gooey goodness. It has a crisp on the outside, on the bottom, and then on the inside, it's still nice and chewy. It's very tasty. I hope you guys try it. All right, that's it. Dinner rolls, chocolate chip cookies, and a cheese ball. Like and subscribe, guys.